If you have to put someone on a pedestal, put teachers. They are society's heroes. The duties of a teacher are neither few nor small, but they elevate the mind and give energy to the character. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. Better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher. Your heart is slightly bigger than the average human heart, but that's because you're a teacher. Teachers can change lives with just the right mix of chalk and challenges. Teaching is the greatest act of optimism. One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Students, don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It is not what is poured into a student that counts, but what is planted. Teachers have three loves: love of learning, love of learners, and the love of bringing the first two loves together. The art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. Education doesn't just make us smarter, it makes us whole. Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best. I am indebted to my father for living, but to my teacher for living well. A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. I like a teacher who gives you something to take home to think about besides homework. I have learned silence from the talkative, toleration from the intolerant, and kindness from the unkind. Yet, strange, I am ungrateful to those teachers. A good teacher can inspire hope, ignite the imagination, and instill a love of learning. A teacher who is attempting to teach without inspiring the pupil with a desire to learn is hammering on cold iron. Good teachers know how to bring out the best in students. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Change is the end result of all true learning. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. The learning process continues until the day you die. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never cease to grow. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. They know enough who know how to learn. Education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper or your self-confidence. They cannot stop me. I will get my education if it is in the home, school, or any place. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. He who opens a school door closes a prison. Education is the ability to meet life situations. Learning starts with failure. The first failure is the beginning of education. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Education consists mainly of what we have unlearned. If you have to put someone on a pedestal, put teachers. They are society's heroes. The duties of a teacher are neither few nor small, but they elevate the mind and give energy to the character. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. Better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a group.
Hello, good evening. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So thank you all for registering and attending this national level online faculty development program on outcome-based education and application of generative AI in teaching and research, organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell IQAC of the Gauhati University, Assam, in association with IPSR Solutions Limited. We would like to welcome Dr. Thomas Varghese, MSc, MEd, PhD, Chair, Finance Program, J.R. Shaw School of Business, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, Canada, who will be the resource person for today, and all the FTP participants. About this FTP, this will be a 1-week program with live sessions on the same timing, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we do expect you to attend all the 7 days. And today is the 4th day of the FTP. And fee for the LMS access and processing of the certificate is INR 400. All the participants who have paid the processing fee will receive the LMS access, the video recording for all days, and the provision to download your FTP completion certificate. The procedure for receiving the certificate will be informed to you towards the end of the FTP. If any of you are yet to make the payment, please make the payment of amount INR 400 to the account details in the chat. If you are unable to attend any of the live sessions, they will be available in the LMS. We have shared the LMS access details through email to those who have shared the payment proof in WhatsApp till yesterday. Those who have shared the payment proof in WhatsApp today will receive the LMS access detail mail by tomorrow. If you have any trouble in attending the WebEx online session, you could join the YouTube live session, which will be put in the chat shortly. And about today's technical session, before that, my name is Archana and I'll be moderating the event for today. And today's technical session, the topic is OBE Implementation, a Canadian Experience, by Dr. Thomas Varghese, Chair, Finance Program, J.R. Shaw School of Business, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, Canada. Dr. Thomas Varghese started his career as a research officer at a small institution in Maharashtra, focusing on social surveys. Later, he became the assistant director, research there. His passion for teaching led him to the School of Applicable Mathematics at MG University, where he worked with Professor Dr. Mendes Jacob. He then taught in Brunei before moving to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where he joined the Department of Mathematical and Statistical Science at the University of Alberta. Currently, he chairs the finance program at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology and also serves as an educator and subject matter expert at Athabasca University in Canada. Thomas has authored numerous papers in statistics and education and has presented at various national and international conferences. He also reviews several international journals. In addition to his academic pursuits, Thomas is passionate about community service, volunteering in his community and church. He is an active member of Lions Club, holding several positions, including the newest role as Vice District Governor elect of District C1 in Canada for the year 2024-25. He has won multiple awards in Lionism and is certified Lions instructor, showcasing his dedication and expertise within the organization. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Archana. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 4th day of the Faculty Development Program. And once again, thank you, Archana, for your kind introduction. I express my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Pradap Jyoti Handik, coordinator of the Faculty Development Program, Professor Padmini Barua, Director of IAC, Professor Babin Tati, Professor Saharia, Deputy Director, and CEO of IPSR, Professor Dr. Mendes Jacob, and all other esteemed leaders and participants for this awesome opportunity to be with you and share my experiences with outcome-based education. I'm truly excited to be part of the FDP at the oldest university in the northeastern region of India. It was indeed amazing to learn from Professor Barua that the university was funded through the contribution of local people, and it is truly a public funded university. And also that the Gauhati University is a pioneer to many initiatives. So it is an honor to be here, and thank you to all participants. So for the past 3 days, you have been immersed in outcome-based education. On the first day, you learned about Bloom's taxonomy. On the second day, you explored the various aspects of outcome-based education. Yesterday, Dr. Mendes Jacob discussed the mapping program of outcomes and assessment, mapping of program outcomes and assessment. And so today, what I would like to do is to share my experiences with implementing outcome-based education in a Canadian institution. So implementation requires a quick review of what we covered previously, right? So you will, for the first few slides, we will just quickly look at some of the things that you have already discussed that will set the stage for today's presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me for a minute. So for a few seconds, rather. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
And then you can also hear me well, right?
Yes, you're audible as well.
Okay, thank you. So for better bandwidth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my camera off. Hopefully that is okay with you. So moving on to my next slide. So this is the agenda that I have planned for today. The image provided on this slide presents the foundational principles of outcome-based education, and Dr. Sunil Job, sir, walked you through these foundational principles. So just to recap and quickly go through it, the clarity of focus, what it tells us is there must be clarity on what is expected from students in each program. Not just program, each subject, even the chapter or the module that you teach your students. And why is it so important? Because it creates the right expectation and provides the right direction to the teaching and learning process. The second one says design down and deliver up. Now, this is one of, if you want to consider something as the backbone of outcome-based education, I would say design down, deliver up is the backbone. The reason being, when formulating the curriculum, educators starts with outcomes and they work backwards. When planning instructions, teachers teach what students need to learn to demonstrate the outcome. So it is important to know what the exit outcomes are first, and then we work backwards. I know many of you have heard about Stephen Covey, who wrote one of the famous books, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In this book, he mentioned that to begin with end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. Now, why is it important to have that clear understanding of destination? He continues, it says, it means to know where you are going so that you better understand where you are now, so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. So it is important to begin with end in mind, designing down. The third block here is high expectation. Very simply said, high expectation means as a teacher, as a professor, as a lecturer, as an instructor, you set the bar high for your students. Mediocrity is not acceptable in student performance. To explain it further, assessments in outcome-based education must challenge your students enough to activate and enable higher order thinking skills, critical thinking skills, decision-making power, problem solving, and it should be more authentic in the sense that the performance test, demonstration exercise, simulation, role play, and so on. And then the last block here is the expanded opportunity. That means promises high level learning to all students. I will come back to it briefly later on. So expanded opportunity means every single student is given the opportunity to perform well. There are also some additional principles like flexibility. What that means is flexibility allows, OBE allows flexibility to the faculty with respect to how they teach, what they teach, and so on. Comparison is another block. The implementation of OBE will result in the standardization of the education system and processes. So when your students go to another university, they don't have to think twice because the standards are already set and you are following the standards. So it is easy for different institutions to compare their curriculum based on the standards that are set. And the one other advantage with this comparison process is this allows employers to easily gauge what to expect from your graduates. Then involvement is another important point to remember. All students are equally given the opportunities to involve in the classroom. So they are not just passive learners, they are active learners, and they are involved all the time. So before I get into the details of implementation, I want to ask you a few questions. I want you to ponder on some questions. You don't have to give me your answers right away or type it in the chat, but I really want you to think about these questions, because your answers will help you gauge whether you are prepared to implement OBE wholeheartedly in your situation. So I'm going to go on to my next slide. So the questions for you to think. The first question says, why do you teach? I'm using the word we because I am as a teacher as well. So why do we teach? What is the most important thing for us to focus on as teachers to help our students be successful? I know when I read as a teacher, as a professor, as a lecturer, when I pose these questions, immediately I know that you have these answers. Why do we teach? What is the important? Yes, that is correct. To teach for knowledge transformation so that your students can excel. And what is the most important thing for us to focus on? You don't have to give me the answers, but I want you to have an answer prepared in your mind, or think about this. How do you plan what to teach? Do you make sure that students are really involved in their own learning in your classrooms? How do you decide what students need to know and be able to do by the end of the program? How do you make sure your students are learning what they need to? Are these things easy to understand and measure? When you give students feedback on their work, how does it help them to get better? Not just in your classroom, not just in your institution, but in the world beyond that, in the real world when they are out working. And my last question here is, when you think about what schools will be like in the future, what do you think needs to change to make sure students and society are both doing well? Now, why did I ask you these questions? And again, as I said, I was not expecting an answer, but if it had been a full day session, I would certainly encourage people to share, and then we move on. So why did I ask you these questions? Because this will set the stage. This will tell each and every one of us whether we are prepared to implement outcome-based education in our program, in our institution, wholeheartedly. That word is very important, wholeheartedly. If outcome-based education, if it is implemented successfully, then you can, there is success. If you just randomly use Google Scholar or any search engines, you can read hundreds of successful stories. I'm just randomly chose some examples here. McNeil in 2006 and a group of professors along with McNeil shared about this success in the University of South Wales in a medical program. And then there is another article. I was able to identify another article in Hong Kong, from Hong Kong, where they implemented it successfully, computer science. Then there is another one in Botswana, Malaysia, Indonesia, and so on. So what I meant to say is, in UK, in US, the New Zealand, Malaysia, Australia, South Africa, Canada, Philippines, African countries, India, wherever outcome-based education was implemented successfully, there is certainly a lot of success stories that we can share. So just to switch gears a little bit here, I want you to look at this quote. This is by William G. Spaddy and Kit Marshall. So this comes from an article that appeared in 1991, and the journal is Educational Leadership. It is titled Beyond Traditional Outcome-Based Education. So in this article, this is what it says: success in schools is of limited benefit unless students are equipped to transfer that success to life in a complex, challenging, high-tech future. So what it means is this statement suggests that achieving success within the school environment, such as good grades or academic achievements, is not enough on its own. For the largest number of time, for the longest period of time, we were all focusing on, if we want to measure the success of students, we always, thought about what is the passing percentage? What are the number of distinctions from our program? How many A pluses are there? How many university ranks are from our college or institution? So what it says here is success with this good passing percentages or A pluses or distinctions is not enough. It emphasizes that the students need to be prepared to apply their success and knowledge to real life situations that is constantly changing, technologically advanced, and is full of challenges. In other words, the ability to adapt, the ability to problem solve, the ability to navigate the complexities of the modern world is what is essential for students to be successful in their life. So the question for you I have is your student ready to be up and running when they hit the road of workplace? If they are successful in their lives, not in your classrooms, but beyond your institution, out when they are working, if they are successful in their lives, then you have achieved your purpose as a teacher. So this is William G. Spady, who quote that I read before. He's an academic educational psychologist, he's a sociologist. In 1994, he wrote the book Outcome-Based Education, Critical Issues and Answers. And since then, he has authored numerous books, articles, and papers on educational reform and outcome-based education. So his ideas about outcome-based education was developed in 1970s and 80s while he was working as an associate executive director of the American Association for School Administrators. So when he started working on making changes to education, he was worried about two main things. Number one, what the future would be like for students. And number two, how schools were getting them ready for it. As he went on to explore more, collect data, gather information, he realized that the American system was too focused on itself, not enough on what students really need to learn for the future. He believed that the people running the system were stuck in old ways of thinking and weren't looking ahead to what could be a better future for us, for our students, for their students. So system was driven primarily by what was and always had been rather than what could be and what should be. Folks, I'm glad that Gauhati University is led by visionary leaders like the Vice Chancellor and the other leaders. As Professor Barwa mentioned in her welcome speech, that Gauhati University wants to prepare employment-ready, socially responsible and responsible citizens. So, moving on, outcome-based education is not a new idea. We hear about, only to recently, there is a lot of talks about it, but this is not a recent idea. The idea of outcome-based education had been around for a long time, I would say at least 500 years. So, both the outcome-based education that we have and, going back 500 years, both these emphasize the practical learning and skill development. Mastery of specific competencies or outcomes is the central focus in both cases. Learning is often structured around the real world application and hands-on experience. Now you may say, then what is the difference between the two? The difference is now what we are talking, the outcome-based education that we are talking about, it places stronger emphasis on aligning learning objectives with broader educational goals and standards, formalized educational approach, and so on. We don't have much time to do a comparative study. All I want to drive to your attention is this is not a new idea. This had been here for almost 500 years. So then you may ask, what is it that triggered all these talks about outcome-based education? There are four things that I want to bring to your attention. Something happened in 1957. Many of you probably right away understood what I'm going to talk about. Then student achievement was lower than many other developing countries. So I'll come back to 1957 in a moment. So when Americans looked at the student achievement compared to other developing countries, they realized that the American students were not doing that well. So they wanted some reformation or reforms in their education system. When people like Spady and other educational reformists, when they looked, when they explored, when they looked into their education system, they realized that the system that they are following is a calendar-defined educational model. I will come back to that. And then, of course, increasing rate of unemployment. And so they wanted to fix the system. So what happened in 1957? We all know what happened in 1957, right? Soviet Union launched the first satellite, Sputnik, into the orbit around the Earth. Realization that the US had fallen behind in space race sent shockwaves through the American society. So this triggered the educational reform and then to outcome-based education. And as I said, there was evidence of lagging student achievement compared with what many other developed countries are. This is what I what I talked about, the calendar-defined educational model. The calendar-defined educational model is a framework that is structured around an academic calendar or schedule of a school year. So we're saying, okay, this is an 8 months program or a 10 months program. These are the list of the topics that they are going to cover. So the curriculum, the instruction, the assessment, the extracurricular activities, everything is planned in alignment to a list of topics. So, this is a screenshot from one of the course outlines. So equations and inequalities, introduction to equations, linear equations, inequalities, and quadratic equations, some other equations, and so on. So the list of the topics. And this needs to be covered probably in a month or 1.5 months or in 3 weeks. So calendar defined educational model. And I also talked about increasing unemployment rate. So outcome-based education, it had been here for almost 500 years. William G. Spady, who is known as the father of outcome-based education, he did not invent this out of vacuum. Outcome-based education did not emerge from nowhere. It is built upon previous educational theories. So because William Spady coined the term outcome-based education in 1988, he is known as the father of OBE. So his work is based on educationists like Ralph Tyler, Robert Major, James Brock. You heard about Benjamin Bloom extensively through Dr. Sunil Job. So what I'm saying here is that OBE originated from and is grounded in efforts to address the pedagogical concerns. So this is again an article written by William Spady. This appeared in 1988, and it is in this article that he first theorized outcome-based education. So in here, I'm just quoting it from that article. It says, most educators know that it would make more sense to operate schools on the basis of what students can actually do. But the demands of custody and administrative standardization make this ideal most unattainable. So what William Sparry is saying, I help to develop the key concepts and framework of outcome-based education to address the problem. So I'm going to go and define it formally. Outcome-based education means organizing for results. I have highlighted the words for results, basing on what we do instructionally on the outcomes that we want to achieve, whether in specific parts of the curriculum or in the schooling process as a whole. So in other words, organizing programs, instruction, and assessment around clearly defined outcomes, clearly defined exit outcomes. As you might have noticed, I have bolded the words exit outcomes in the slide. That means what students are able to do, not just after that semester, not just after that year, not just during during their education in your institution. Exit outcome means what they are able to do after they complete the program. Many of you probably have heard about Wayne Dyer. He's a motivational speaker and an author. So he said, begin with end in mind. Start with the end outcome and work backwards to make your dream possible. So, folks, dear professors, lecturers, instructors, teachers, our responsibility, our goal, our passion is to make the dreams possible for our students. That is why we are passionate about outcome-based education. That is why you are attending this faculty development program. That is why you are investing your money, your time, because you're passionate about the future of your students. I know that Sunil Jobsar did mention briefly about the traditional education and outcome-based education. Everything that we had covered in the past is traditional education. Our focus is exam-driven. Our syllabus is a list of topics. Our focus is how hard and how good our students are at memorizing, rote learning. Our focus was always on scoring good marks or encouraging students to score good marks rather than learning the actual skills or gaining any practical knowledge. And we always were on the stage preaching, or, I mean, to be honest, like what I am doing right now, because we don't, if it had been a face-to-face session, we would have had many interaction. And of course, unemployment is getting worse. But on the flip side, outcome-based education, it's not focused on one last final exam that they do. Assessment is ongoing basis. Learning is connected to a real life situation. So everything that you do in your classroom is based on what they will do after they graduate from the program, after they complete their course, your program. And again, I mentioned about the flexibility. It allows teacher to be innovative, not always talking. We can transform the responsibility and the accountability, transfer the accountability and the responsibility to your students. You can be innovative. You can be creative in designing your curriculum and delivering your curriculum. What the students learn rather than what they are taught. That is basically the focus, what students learn rather than what they are taught. And of course, there are measurable outcomes. So moving on, when you present the syllabus as a list of topics, students does not understand, or they have no idea about what is expected of them. This is a list of topics. On the other hand, when it comes, and you will see those course outlines that when I'm going to share, there are specificities. It will specifically tell them you are, after completing this outcome, the students will be able to do, some specific things, and you will see that when I share my course outlines. So Syllabus as a list of topics that was in old days. We want course outcomes to guide every aspect of course design, from selection of course content, development of assessments, learning activities, and resources. In other words, outcome-based education is learner-centered. Before, in a traditional classroom, it will always be lecturers and students are there as passive learners. We want to shift that paradigm. Again, if you recall Sunil Job sir's session on the first day, he said, this is an exciting journey. A paradigm shift is going to happen. So from students being passive learners, the advantage that outcome-based education brings to your classroom is they are active learners. The accountability is transferred to them. And we are not asking them to memorize certain concepts. We want them to understand the concepts and apply the concepts in some of the real world tasks. And focus is always on the outputs, what they can do, not on the inputs, how much you teach or how number of hours they put in. It is what they can produce, what is the output. So everything, the curriculum content and structure, instructional delivery, student assessment, student placement, everything is based on the exit outcomes. So this one you have already, I know that it's already covered. So just to refresh your memory, always it starts from the vision and mission of your institution, and you will see that as we go on. So what is the vision of your institution? And so your university is the mission of the university. So the program educational objectives, the program outcomes, the course outcomes, everything is aligned with the vision and mission. So based on vision and mission of your institution, your university, the program educational objectives are created. And from there, the program outcomes are created, which will translate into the graduate attributes. You will see the attributes of a graduate from our institution. And then based on that, each courses are designed. And for each courses, there are course outcomes that will align with everything that was covered previously, like vision and mission of the institution, program education objectives, program outcomes, and so on. You did have a detailed discussion on learning outcomes, but because I'm going to bring in 2 learning outcomes, I want you to just to refresh your memory. Learning outcome means things we can do because of learning. Rouser gave this definition. In other words, a very simple way of looking at it is, what is the target that you want your students to meet? That is the learning outcome. But when it comes to course outcomes, learning outcomes can be very broad. When it comes to course outcomes, this is the intention of the course. Course outcomes will outline what your students are able to do upon the successful completion of the course. So it's not what they're able to do while they are in the classroom. It's beyond the classroom, beyond the boundaries of your educational institution. So I want to bring this. This is in the University of Toronto website. You can read it in there too. By the end of this course, students will have added to their understanding of the complete research process. Added to their understanding. What does that even mean? Complete research process. What is complete research process? So as a student, maybe as an instructor who had been teaching this course for such a long time, you may be able to understand it. But if someone else is coming into your classroom as a student, will have absolutely no clue on what this is. So this is a very vague outcome. All the outcomes that you create, or all the outcomes that you're going to write for your courses must be smart outcomes. It must be specific, it must be measurable, it must be attainable, it must be realistic, and of course, it must be time bound. So in the next slide, what I have done is, this learning outcomes should use specific language, and it should clearly indicate expectation for student performance. So rather than this vague outcome, what the University of Toronto suggested is, this is a more precise outcome. By the end of the course, students will be able to describe the research process. So you can see an action verb there. Evaluate critically, formulate research questions, identify and demonstrate facility in research designs, formulate a complete and logical plan, interpret research findings, and so on. So as you can see, it is more precise, it is more clear, there is clarity in there. So even if the students did not have any previous experience, once attend the class in your class or registered in your program, or attend your class, on the first day when he receives the course outline or when he refers to the course outline, knows exactly what they must know. Describe the research process, evaluate critically, formulate research questions, and so on. We have another example here. By end of this course, students will have a deeper appreciation of literature and literary movements in general added to their understanding of complete research process. It's a long sentence, and sometimes we may think it looks really good, but this is a very poor outcome. The reason, again, learning outcomes should use specific language. It should clearly indicate the expectation for student performance. So this is a vague outcome. It needs to use the specific language. It must clearly indicate what is expected of our students and how that is even measured. So what do? We revise it saying, identify and describe the major literary movements of the 20th century. So by the end of this course, students will be able to, number one, identify and describe the major literary movements, perform close readings of the literary text, evaluate literary work, and so on. So there is more specifics attached to it. Students, it's easier for students to understand what is expected of them. So once, as I said in one of my earlier quotes, once they know what the end goal is, it is easier for them to realize where they stand now and what must be done to reach that end goal. So having that SMART goals, which is specific, which is measurable, which is attainable, which is realistic and time-bound, helps students to reach that goal. So don't forget, our focus is to make all of our students successful, not with good marks, but be able to do beyond. We'll be able to walk out of your institution and be socially responsible, contributing, and responsible citizens. So I'm moving on to some of the lessons that I learned in implementing outcome-based education. Again, this is my thoughts, this is my experience. I'm just using this as an example because I'm associated with this institution. Okay, these are all my experiences, my thoughts. So I work in this institution, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. This is a leader in, this institution is a leader in technical training and applied education. We are located in Edmonton, Alberta. This is Western Canada. And NAIT students earn degrees, they get diplomas, certificates, and this is only focused on career fields like business, IT, engineering, technology, health sciences, culinary, arts, hospitality management, environmental management, and so on. So NAIT is a leader, Canada's leader in apprenticeship training for skilled trades as well. So everything that this institution does is focused on giving students the skills needed to build strong future. So, small class sizes. And why did I say call small class sizes? You will, when I talk about the challenges, you will understand the importance of small class sizes and commitment on hands-on practical education. So this institution is able to provide students with the skills employers want. So industry is a partner in everything that this institution does. Again, I will tell you why I'm going to emphasize industry is a partner. So in short, there are almost 120 programs leading to degrees, applied degrees, diplomas, certificates. And as of 2023, there was approximately 16,000 students enrolled in the program. 7,000 plus students is apprentices registered in the apprenticeship training. There were 12,000 plus students enrolled in non-credit programs, and then 20,000 plus registrants for customized corporate-based training. So it's a huge institution with a lot of activities. And we always take pride in saying we are relevant and responsive to the needs of our province, which is basically like state, and also the country. So relevant and responsive. So this, again, all our programs, don't forget, it always starts with the vision. So when you are thinking about outcome-based education in your institution, always starts with the vision of the program. Vision of the institution. So meaningful career, vibrant communities, globally competitive industries, and a transformative polytechnic education. So what are the visions and the promises and values of this institution? So they are saying this institution, we are leaders in experiential learning with an unmatched connection to industry. So everything, all the courses, all the programs are all starts from with this vision in mind, right? Experiential learning or hands-on learning, and then connection to industries. We develop student competencies by applying knowledge to practice in real world challenges. So everything that we do is related to what is out there. So are our students ready to once they hit the job market, once they take up their first job, are they job ready? And of course, technological development is all over the world happening. So technology focus in teaching, and of course business. And the staff are industry expert with a passion for their chosen field. So many of the, or most of the faculty comes from industry who had been, I come from my program is finance program. So the faculties are, the members of the faculty, there are people who worked as financial planners, a mortgage specialist, investment analyst, and so on, who worked in industry for a long period of time. So when they come in, then they can bring in that experience to the students. And a proudly polytechnic approach in higher education. Again, polytechnic approach, hands-on learning, right? That leads to meaningful careers for our learners and fuels the economic engine of our province. Intensively focused on creating a prosperous province and people of province. So there are 4 schools, and now the restructuring is going to happen, and there will be more schools later on, starting from July. But currently there are 4 schools. The School of Business, which I work for, then School of Applied Sciences and Technology, School of Health and Life Sciences, and School of Skilled Trades. When the IPSR director and CEO, Dr. Mendes Jacob, and I, we worked in the School of Applicable Mathematics in Mahatma Gandhi universities. At that time, using the word school for for a university was in wasn't that popular, but we did use, on a side note, I just thought of mentioning that. So the education that we use is a Polytechnic model of education. So Polytechnic model of education is outcome-based education. So as I said, the outcome of learning is directly linked to what students will be required to do once employed in the industry. And everything that we teach is driven by industry. What that means is the curriculum that is developed is relevant to the needs of industry. There is a constant connection with the industry. We hear from the industry and what they want, the change according to the changes, evolution of the industry, or the changes that happens in the industry. The curriculum is also changed to meet the needs of industry. And it's created with industry. So we bring industry together with instructors to determine what needs to be taught. Later on, I will expand on it a little bit more. And of course, the assessment are meaningful assessments. So student learning is assessed using tasks that they would normally encounter in workplace. So that is what we teach. So how we teach is taught by experts, hands-on learning, industry-relevant technology, evidence-based practices, and then leaders in their field. NATE instructors are professionals who engage in ongoing learning in industry. So for those who are familiar with the CFA designation and that sort of designations, you have to constantly have that extra learning that happens all the time, right? So they always keep their knowledge fresh. And NATE teaches its instructors how to teach so they can translate their industry practice into sound instructional practice. So every instructor who is recruited or a new hires will all have to go through a training. We call it being a master instructor. So there is a training program. Before it was all face-to-face. Now it is online. Option is also there. So people take that online course to talk about classroom management, authentic assessment, and so on. So all aspects of teaching and learning is covered. And then hands-on learning, whether in the classroom, online environments, labs, workplace. So NATE students learn by doing what they will be doing in the workplace. That is outcomes-based education. And taught by experts, instructors have relevant and current practical industry experience. So from the NATE, the institution vision, then comes the school vision. So at the J.R. Shaw School of Business, our dynamic programs are designed to equip you with the skills, knowledge, hands-on experience essential for success in today's rapidly evolving business landscape. So whether you're aspiring to become a visionary entrepreneur, strategic marketer, financial expert, organizational leader, the J.R. Shaw School of Business offers a diverse range of cutting-edge programs tailored to meet your ambitions. So from NATE, or the institution vision and mission, you can see how that is related to the school vision and mission. So based on that, we have several programs. We have programs in accounting and analytics, entrepreneurship innovation, finance, general business studies, hospitality management, human resource management, and management, marketing, supply chain management, technology management, leadership. So there is diploma, certificate, Bachelor of Technology program, Bachelor of Business Administration program, and so on. So what is my outcome-based education experience? What are some of the steps that we used? So when it was introduced first, the industry, the faculty, students, alumni, leadership, we all come together and brainstorm. So what do we want our students? So again, what is happening in the industry, what is happening there. So what do we want our students to become? So we identify the concept, the skills that the graduates they need to know, and what are the issues that they will face outside this institution or in the workplace. And based on that, we identify course outcomes, or we create course outcomes. So number one is brainstorming, bringing people together, discussing, identify the concepts and skills. Then based on that, course outcomes are created. Once the course outcomes are created, then we look at the existing course. Sometimes we may have to deconstruct the course, break everything apart, and then build the courses. So all the courses that are built will be based on what is expected of the students to learn. So once the courses are created, so once we have the outcomes, once the courses are put together, then the teaching and learning and assessments will be within the outcome-based education framework. So the model that we used is Stale and Luchak's model. So you can just, probably Google it, and they have several books written, Outcomes Primer, Reconstructing the College Curriculum, and there are several other books. There's another book on assessment and so on. So the model was all based on their model. So based on all the discussions, we create a graduate profile. If you go back to, refer to some of this earlier slide, just want to bring up that slide just to refresh your memory. Just going back. See, vision and mission, then the school objectives, program outcomes, and based on program outcomes, the graduate attributes. So the graduate attributes or graduate profile that we created for our program, this is for the finance program. So it clearly tells you what the students, the graduates are capable of doing it. So that is why I said it's easy for the employers to do a comparison. If they know graduate profile, so they know exactly what they are able to do. Look at this one. Here it says graduates of the finance diploma program. Similar to diploma program, there is also a degree program graduate profile also. I didn't use it, I'm only doing the diploma program. So are able to apply the foundational knowledge and skills in general business with a practical focus towards financial planning, credit management, and investments for a career in financial services. So it is easy, very, very easy to for the employers to identify what sort of products they are getting from this institution. Graduates will provide value by demonstrating the ability to work collaboratively. Teamwork is one of the most important or the most important skills that is necessary nowadays. So work collaboratively, work ethically, because this is a finance, this is dealing with finance, so it's important to be ethical with clients, ethical with colleagues in the assessment of financial management issues and solutions. And they will also demonstrate effective communication skills and working knowledge of basic computer applications for business. Now, if you look at this graduate profile, they are specified about the technical skills that they have, and also the non-technical or soft skills, the communication ability to work together, ability to problem solve, ability to provide value by their work, and so on. So this will, once they have this graduate profile, it is easy for industry or the employer to identify or to know what sort of product they are hiring. And then program outcomes. Now, if you look at this program outcomes, you can see it all are SMART outcomes. It is very specific, it is attainable, it is realistic, and so on. And it's measurable. Analyze financial and non-financial data. And for what? To guide personal and corporate clients. Again, more specifically in financial planning and financial decision making. They also have knowledge about the basic legal framework. So they are working in Canada, so they have to have a good understanding of the Canadian laws. So basic legal framework for business and personal related matters in Alberta, because this is the province, so they have an understanding of the Alberta laws, and then demonstrating ethical practices and professional conduct. Explain to stakeholders investment and credit management processes and the impact of external regulatory and economic environment. Use relevant emerging technology in the financial service industry. Develop relations with the clients using interpersonal skills to achieve business objectives. Again, if you read these program outcomes, you can see the required technical skills are mentioned there, and also the non-technical skills, the soft skills are also identified in here. So this is about the program outcome. Now I'm going to take a simple example of a course. So this is one of the courses that I teach. This is introductory statistics course. We call it business statistics course, and it is STAT 2201. So looking at this course outcomes, evaluate business information using descriptive statistics and graphical methods. Evaluate, again, as you can see, it clearly tells what they are capable of doing it using descriptive statistics, graphic methods. See how different it is from the previous ones where we just had a list of topics. We could, if you think about a course outline where you list the topics, what they do is pie chart, bar chart, histogram, mean, median, mode, test of hypothesis for this, test of hypothesis. So it will be a list of topics. Instead of that, we are providing what students are capable of doing it. Solve probability problems and problems based on specific probability distributions. Estimating population mean and population proportion. Perform various hypothesis tests. Conducts simple linear regression and assess the result. Then each outcome, so these are all the outcomes. Each outcome is now further divided into concept, skills, and issues. Concept, skills, and issues means what they are capable of doing it. What they are capable of doing it. So use graphs, charts, numerical summary, measures, and statistical terms to analyze and interpret business data. Interpret data types. Again, the skills are there. Use Microsoft Office, Excel. Again, a skill is mentioned. Calculate appropriate measures of central tendency for qualitative and quantitative. So concepts are also there. Skill is also there. So rather than just saying evaluate business information using descriptive statistics, so what are they exactly able to do it? Again, more clarity. There is clarity of focus on what students are expected to do. So a student coming in knows exactly what is being covered in this topic and what they are expected to learn, and also what they are expected to do in their exams. So they should be able to use Microsoft Excel. They should be able to summarize qualitative and quantitative data using tables and graphs. They must calculate and interpret various measures of non-central position of quantitative data and solve the probability problems and specific probability distributions. So describe and identify various types of events in probability. Use probability terms and concepts. Use properties of random variables. And then here, specific probability distributions that will be covered: binomial, Poisson, normal. Again, what is expected of them? Solve business decision problems. So they apply this and then they come up with a decision. Going on to the next one, estimate the population mean and population proportion. So not just saying that, then what is expected of this outcome? Now, the concepts describe the features of various sampling techniques. The skills construct and interpret the confidence interval and calculate the minimum sample size necessary to estimate population mean, and then calculate the minimum sample size, and so on. So same thing applies for the next one too. Perform various hypothesis tests to analyze and communicate how decisions may affect business, and so on. So we are using concepts, skills, and issues. So many a times you may be familiar with the knowledge, skills, and attributes. So here we used concepts, skills, and issues, CSI, concepts, skills, and issues, not KSA, knowledge, skills, and attributes. The reason is we are following that Ruth Stale and Les Lukchuk 2011 framework. That is why we are using it. My understanding is they did not use knowledge, skills, and attributes. They did not use attribute because it is difficult to teach an attribute, right? That is their, I think that is what their reasoning is. However, we can teach them the issues that happens in the workplace, and we can ask them, we can train them, prepare them to perform or assess these situations or issues in work and find a solution to it. That is why the framework they use is for outcomes. It is concepts, skills, and issues, and not knowledge, skills, and attributes. It's very difficult to teach attributes, but it is easy to introduce issues and then help prepare them to resolve it or solve it. So I mentioned in my earlier slide that there is strong industry connections. So in strong industry connections, the first one is for every program, we do have program advisory committees. Program advisory committees, as I said, there will be the school leaders, like chair of the program, department head, deans. So sometimes faculty is there. We also have representation from student, not all the time, students, alumni. Then there are members from industry. So we meet once or twice a year just to review the curriculum that we have. And then the industry also shares with us the changes that are happening in the industry. And they also provide us direction on how we can prepare our students. Let me give you a very simple example. A few years ago, we did not have a business calculus course. So in one of the program advisory committees, an industry representative said it is important for the students to have an understanding about calculus. So what we did is we introduced a course in the program. So again, with the discussion and so on, it's not all of a sudden coming the program, the course being introduced. So further discussions and so on, it was introduced. Then we realized that there is a need for a financial modeling course. So we introduced financial modeling course and so on. Then we realized, when we heard from the program advisory committee that it is important to have a course in machine learning with a specific financial application. So we introduced that. So there will be constant connection with the program advisory committees. So it doesn't stop there. We also constantly invite guest speakers to our classroom. So let's say in an introductory finance course, we are talking about mortgage. Then we bring in a mortgage specialist. Let's say we are talking about retirement plans. So we bring in a specialist who is working in industry with retirement plans and talks about retirement plans and importance of that and so on. They are not going to sell their business, but they give the students all the necessary knowledge that they need to have. Then all of our program is associated with several professional designations, like chartered financial analyst, CFA. You all probably know that. Then CFP, certified financial planning. Then we have chartered business valuators, certified marketing technicians, financial modelers. So we bring in all those. We provide information nights for students. We bring in either online or in person. We invite representatives from professional designation, the bodies. We also bring in people who are working as CFAs and so on. And they talk to students. And they tell us, well, what is the life of a financial analyst? How many hours do they work? Sometimes students even ask, how much money do they make? So, those are natural questions. So they talk about, how much effort they need to put in. So how much studies that needs to happen. What are the steps to get to that position? And so on. So, and then Financial Literacy Week is something that program started almost 3 years ago. In Canada, people are not very good in managing their finances. So Canadian government used November. November is a financial literacy month. So there will be sessions happening all over Canada for people to come learn about the RRSP, Retirement Savings Plan, tax-free savings plan, and so on. So, and again, how to budget their money, how to find, better deals and, things like that. So what we did is we also joined the bandwagon, and we decided to host financial speaker series, 45 minutes, hands-on, short courses for 3 evenings. Everyone is invited, even people from outside the institution. So, from the community is also invited to attend. It's a free course. All the speakers are volunteers. They just come and spare an hour. They talk to students, they talk to people, and they talk about different aspects of finance. Then there is always alumni service, right? They volunteer. And there is also institutional research. So how do we know the program is doing well? How do we know that our students are gaining jobs? Are they employed? So the quality of graduates or quality of the program is based on when your students are employed. In other words, how soon they are employed, where they are employed, and of course, the feedback from the employers. So there is a department called institutional research who does the research and see, their employee and so on. So this is what we have from 2021. So 43% of students found employment even before graduating. 32% of students secured employment within 3 months. 100% employment was reported in 28 of the 85 programs. Of all the graduates that are available for employment, 72% found full-time and 3% found part-time work that was directly related or somewhat related to their field. And 15% found work that was not related to the field. And remaining 10% were seeking work. And the median salary of full-time employment was 50,000 and so on. So, as I said, the quality of the graduates is based on where they are employed, how soon they are employed. All these are possible because there is a constant connection with the industry. They hire our people, they come for mock interviews. That's one thing I forgot to mention. We do something called mock interviews. We invite industry people. It's all volunteer time. They come in and the students get the opportunity to attend these interviews as if, it's a real job interview kind of thing. So students will have to upload their resume, their biodata before, and then the biodata will be given to this interviewer. We'll look at the biodata and then we'll suggest how it can be improved, and they will do that one-on-one interview and then provide feedback. What needs to be improved? Your answer for this particular question was not very strong. Sometimes what happens is, people who are in the last semester and ready to get an employment, they also attend. And if the interviewer like them, so there are chances that they will also get a job. It is basically a mock interview, but sometimes students are even hired through this process. Then for proper implementation, so it's all good. It's all very good. Students get employment, all the outcomes are all based on what students are being, are going to do. Employers are happy, there is graduate profile, everything is so hunky-dory, it's all so good. However, it all only happens if there is shift in, there is a proper implementation. So what needs to be done to implement this properly? Number one, there must be a shift in the mindset of leadership, the faculty, and students, and staff. The way that we taught, the way we operated, that needs to change completely. We have to start from zero as a brand new person. If not, the implementation will not be successful. I'm not saying this to discourage you, but a shift in mindset is number one for the proper implementation of outcome-based education. There requires an academic reorganization. Again, it relates to what is covered before, a shift in mindset and an academic reorganization. What do I mean by academic reorganization? That means some structural changes needs to happen in our educational institution. So some structural changes to align with the principles and goals of outcome-based education. So what does that entail? This could mean, revising the curriculum framework, as I said, the shift in mindset from a completely lecture mode. We may have to modify our teaching methods. Before we were just giving multiple choice questions and short answer questions. This needs to be adjusted and changed to authentic assessment, adjusting our assessment practices. Sometimes even the roles and responsibilities of the faculty and staff needs to be redefined. Sometimes, restructuring of various aspects of academic system needs to happen so that the OBE principles are effectively integrated and implemented throughout the institution. Sunil Job sir mentioned about paradigm shift in teaching and learning, paradigm shift in assessments. Again, it relates to what I said earlier, but I decided to include this so that it really sticks in our mind. Traditionally, the education has been focused on delivering content through lectures and assessing the students based on their ability to recall and recollect the information. But outcome-based education, the mindset is completely different. So this is a student-centered approach. The focus is on what students are able to do with the knowledge they acquire rather than just what they know. So our teaching method probably needs to completely change. Instead of a lecture-centered, we may have to use some other new teaching methods. It may be like problem-based learning. It may be using case studies. It may be using some jigsaw methods. So all those are probably need. Sometimes you need to have field trips. Sometimes you have to have role plays and so on. Reflective journal writing. So all these shifts need to happen. And so one thing we have to understand is shift not just in teaching, it needs to happen in assessment. So if you are teaching one way and you're being and assessing them in another way, it doesn't align, right? So there must be it carries on to the next point, strict adherence to OBE principle at all levels, all the foundation principles I mentioned, the clarity of focus, design down, expanded opportunity, all these needs to be applied at all levels. And then successful collaboration between the different stakeholders. There must be collaboration from the students. Students need to know what is expected of them, right? So students, faculty, industry, the senior leaders like vice chancellor, the pro vice chancellor, and all levels of the educational structure, there must be successful collaboration. Now, once implemented, doesn't mean that everything is going to be smooth. There must be continuous feedback, and there must be feedback and continuous evaluation. Did it work? So I will talk about evaluation at least from a classroom perspective in a minute. So we need to see whether the teaching that we are doing is effective. We need to see whether the assessment that we are employed is effective. So that needs to happen, and a constant evaluation needs to happen. So these are some of the steps for proper implementation. So you may ask, is this an exhaustive list? No, it's not an exhaustive list. It is based on my experience, what I experienced. It's based on my knowledge. So I think these are some of the principles that I came up with, or some of that through my reading, through my experience, and so on. While implementing, are there challenges? Of course, there are challenges. So we have to overcome that challenges. Restructuring of the entire curriculum education system, that is a major challenge. You are deconstructing the whole thing. You are setting aside everything that you taught, and you are trying to put together a brand new curriculum. So restructuring of the entire curriculum. Am I not clear? Can you hear me? I saw a message coming by saying I'm not clear. Is that true?
You're clear, sir. You're clear.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So okay. Thank you very much. So restructuring of the entire curriculum. So that may be a challenge. Teachers' attitude. We had been teaching in a certain way for such a long time. So for us to change is always is quite difficult, right? For everyone, for me, for you, everyone. Change is not that easy. So the teacher's attitude, if teachers are not ready to receive this and apply, because teachers are in the forefront, right? We are actually carrying this mantle. So our attitude is very important. Now, skill set of teachers, sometimes we probably need to have a training. The reason being, we had been using this lecture method for such a long time. How to use case studies in classroom, how to use problem-based learning in our classroom, how to use some other active strategies. Sometimes we need to have the training to bring our skill set up. Another challenge that I could realize is increase in workload. So we may be teaching certain number of courses, 8 courses or 9 courses or however number of courses, and on top of that there are additional work involved now, because to create authentic assessment it needs extra time. So increase in workload is again a challenge in the implementation of outcome-based education. Class size, because when we shift the focus to student-centered classroom with active teaching strategies, having 300 students may not be conducive. So class size can also be challenged. So if you are teaching in a 300 student classroom or 100 student classroom, so again, it is important that teacher identify opportunities, innovative opportunity to see how we can implement those active learning strategies in our classroom. It's not dependent on just teachers alone, right? Learner characteristics are also important. Are our students prepared to accept it? So before it was very easy, they sit back in their chair, listen to their instructor. Now they have to shift it. They probably have to read this lesson before and then come and share with their peer. Or they may have to work with a group of people that they probably have never worked with group people, because they were always individual learners. Now it is group learning that is happening. Now you have to do a presentation in front of the classroom. Before it was just writing the exam on their own. So the learner characteristics needs to change. That also can be a challenge. So how do we prepare our students for that? Again, design down. Having the outcomes expectations set first will prepare them to see what is going to happen in their classroom. So preparing them in advance, our design down model will certainly help. Having that exit outcome laid first will certainly help. Sometimes there is lack of administrative support. That can also be a challenge. But in your case, I don't think, because you have visionary leaders leading this, and I'm very pleased with that. So sometimes lack of administrative support, resources, funding. So these are all some of the challenges. Again, folks, it's not just an exhaustive list. This is some of the challenges that I can think of. Some of the challenges that I heard from other research articles that I read, or learned from my conversation with other people. So outcome-based education, as I said, is now discussed everywhere, even for doctoral education, PhD program. This is from 2021 from University Affairs. So this is this is a magazine or journal, if you want to say. It is published by the Canadian Association of University Teachers. So in there, they mentioned that we need outcome-based approach to doctoral education, and the author Brad Nelson said it is crucial that we restructure our PhD programs from beginning to end to reflect the actual as opposed to imagined career outcomes of our students. And they also mentioned about the reason, not everybody goes to teaching and learning. People are going to industry. So are we preparing our PhD graduates to be ready for that. So it is reaching everywhere, all aspects of education, all levels of education, not just a diploma or certificate or graduate, undergraduate or postgraduate. It is reaching everywhere, and it is gaining momentum in every country. So I mentioned it is important for us, as teachers, to see how effective we are in our classroom. How do we ensure that the goals of outcome-based education are met in your classroom? How do you know that the students are responding effectively to the change to student-centered active learning and teaching strategies? How do you ensure those goals are met? So SoTL, or Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, is a systematic study of teaching and learning process. These are conducted by faculty members in higher education institutions. So what is happening in their classroom is evaluated. So as an instructor, you can see whether the strategies that you are using is effective or not. And so I'm just going to give you a brief definition. So again, Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, the session itself, it's a huge session, but I want to put this in your mind, just to have that in your radar, so you know if you want to do an experiment in your classroom, and if you want to see whether it is effective or not, there is an option to do a research within your classroom, and which could be categorized as Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. So SoTL invites professionals to examine their own classroom practice, record their successes and failures, and ultimately share their experiences so that others may reflect on their findings and build upon teaching and learning processes. So SoTL objectives: to improve student learning by finding better and more engaging ways of teaching, to conduct scholarly examination of what takes place inside the classroom, asking questions, collecting evidence on the effectiveness of different methods of teaching, and then to make the results of this analysis readily available to the other scholars. Then they publish in article. There are some SoTL specific journals. I will also mention that if you are, your institution, you have the option to read some of those. Please look at those articles and then have a better understanding of what Scholarship of Teaching and Learning is. Some of the examples of SoTL research, let's play: improved instruction through re-experiencing learning using tabletop games. So this is a 2023 publication in one of the conferences. These two individuals presented it. Then a Teaching and Learning Inquiry is a journal. Again, why did I list this? So that you will have an understanding of what sort of research is happening under the umbrella of SoTL, or Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. Impact of immediate feedback assessment technique on course evaluations. Threshold concepts in the development of problem-solving skills. Managing active learning processes in large first-year physics classes. Advantages of an integrated approach. So these are some of the types of research that are happening. So what they are actually doing is, in their classroom, if they introduce a new strategy, if they want to see whether it is effective or not, so they are doing a classroom research and then sharing that experience with others. So there are several journals: Canadian Journal of Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, Canadian Journal of Higher Education, Change, the Magazine of Higher Learning, Interdisciplinary Journal of Teaching and Learning, International Journal of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, a Journal of Classroom Interaction, Journal of College Teaching and Learning. So all these are, this is not again an exhaustive list. There are hundreds of journals available Again, specific, if you are teaching physics, there are physics education specifically dealing with the SoTL physics classrooms. Science journals are there, mathematics are there, and so on. So there are lots of journals. I just gave you the name so that you can even start doing some small research on it. So we started off with, I asked you some questions for you to think where you stand as teachers. The reason I started off with those questions are that if your answer to those questions will help you decide whether you are ready for OBE implementation or not. It will help you gauge where you stand and what needs to be done. The world is moving in that direction, so there is no way that we can fall back. We have to join this movement. And then I gave you a little bit background about how this outcome-based education evolved. It's not something new. It had been there for almost 500 years at least. But I talked about the trigger, what happened, and why is it important. Then we looked at the foundation principles. Then we moved on to my experience in outcomes education and how to create I produced an example of a graduate profile. I gave you an example of a course outcome. And each outcome is supported by the concepts, skills, and issues. And I also talked about why issues and not attributes. Issues, it is easier to bring issues from outside rather than teaching an attribute, right? It's not easy to teach an attribute, or even if attribute is taught, how do you measure it? It's difficult, right? So we use concepts, skills, and issues. And then if you, as an instructor, as a teacher, as a professor, if you want to see whether the paradigm shift that happened in your classroom is effective, think about SoTL opportunities, doing research in your classroom based on what you do in your classroom. And then I gave you a list of articles or research that happens, and then a list of journals. Folks, education is not the filling of a pail. Through outcome-based education, we are lighting a fire. So thank you, everyone, for your time. It was great to be with you this evening. And if you have any questions, maybe I can answer that question. If I don't know, I will tell you I don't know, and I will be able to find the answer for you. So thank you once again, and thank you, Gauhati University, for this opportunity. Thank you for all those who attended, and thank you, IPSR, for hosting this.
So I think we have a question in the chat.
Okay, just to give me a minute, I have to stop sharing so that I can see my screen. Okay. Bear with me. Yes, now I am ready for your questions. I can't see the question.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, yeah, now I can see. Okay.
Okay.
You're audible, but the sound is too low. Can't hear properly. I'm so sorry. Sorry, Professor Mitali. I'm not sure what happened. Was it really bad all through the while?
No, sir, it was audible early.
Okay, okay, thank you. It may be one or two times, when I moved away from the mic or something, that may be the reason. So very engaging. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The program is relevant specifically for a teacher education program. Okay, thank you for your kind comment. So what are student-centric methods of teaching that you used in your class? What are actually the challenges that you face? Excellent question. Excellent question. What are the student-teacher-centric methods that you use? One thing that you can try to do is, I'm going to give you a list. Again, it is not an exhaustive list. Some of the things that I try, right? One is think, pair, and share. So in think, pair, and share, it's a very simple technique. What you can do is you can give a problem to your class. And then in groups of 3 or groups of 4, you make groups of 3 or groups of 4. So each individual will try this question on their own, and they then they pair and they share their answers. So let's say they got 2 different answers. So then there comes the discussion, why did that answer differ from this answer? So that think, pair, and share is one student-centered teaching. So the accountability is on student, not you just doing everything on the board and dumb copying. So they are doing this, and not only they are doing the question, they are sharing their answer they are explaining how they got the answer with another person or in a small group. And then sometimes we also do, each group will come up and share how they got the answer, and what sort of conversation did happen, and so on. So think, pair, and share is a very simple one. And another thing is flipped classroom. In flipped classroom, what you do is you assign a topic for them to read, and then you can randomly ask a student to present it. So what did they learn? And then you can they can invite a discussion and then further support the students. Then you can also use other methods, like after the classroom, after the class, you can ask every student to give 2 points. Number 1, what was clear and what was not clear. So again, student, it's not just sitting there, so they have to actively think. So, okay, what wasn't very clear to me in today's lecture or today's lesson? So what is the reason that I did not understand? So as an instructor, then once you review all those, so you will know, okay, the way that I presented this particular concept wasn't very clear. So that gives the opportunity for you to review. So these are some of the student-centric methods of teaching. So what are actual challenges that face? This is a fantastic question. The challenges that faces, again, the mindset, right? Mindset of me as an instructor, and also mindset of the students. I'm more comfortable teaching, coming to a classroom and lecturing. Now it is an additional work that is involved from me. I have to, before as a lecturer, to lecture, I know I can come to my classroom, start my lecture, an hour gone, 2 hours gone, it is easy for me. Now, a responsibility is on me to involve the student. So additional thinking, additional preparation is there. So additional work for me, that is a challenge. Number 2, the mindset of the students. It was easy for them to sit back and listen, and then when the bell rings, they just walk out. But now they have to be actively involved. They have to think. They have to work with the other people. They have to discuss in the classroom. They have to problem solve together. So these are some of the challenges. Again, student-centric teaching methods, that again in itself is a whole full day session. So that is a short answer to your question. So hopefully that helped. Thank you for discussing, quite informative and relevant. Good explanation. Thank you, sir. Good session. Nice job, thank you. What are active learning strategies and assessment methods that we can use in a classroom? So active learning strategies, I said, assessment methods. Um, one is, rather than giving multiple choice questions, problem-based learning. Give them a scenario and ask them to solve. So it is not just solving the problem, it is again explaining it. And then presentation is another thing that you can use. And then portfolio. For example, in statistics, rather than asking them to calculate mean, median, mode, and so on, then you give a data set, then ask them to use a statistical package or Excel or anything that they like. And then they have to say whether it is skewed distribution or it is symmetric distribution. If it is skewed distribution, what statistical measures will they use to analyze it, and the analysis and so on. So that is an assessment strategy. That is again a shift in our mindset, right? And another assessment strategy is, let's say you are teaching economics. So ask them to read that day's newspaper or listen to business news of the previous day. And everybody will have to come and share a learning, and then how it is related to the concept that was discussed before. So again, it's an opportunity for them to apply what they have learned in their classrooms. It's not learning about GDP, not learning about unemployment rate and definition of unemployment rate and GDP and so on. It's actually looking, when there is a mention of GDP. So what GDP is, how is it compared? So, how was it calculated? So what did they learn when they said GDP is this or unemployment rate is that? So what did they really understand? So that is again an opportunity. Very simple changes in your in the way that you do things in your classroom. Ask them to be to watch the news. So then again, an opportunity for them to watch the news, listen to radio and podcast or whatever, and then bringing in that information to the classroom. So it is very easily, you can connect what is happening in your classroom to what is out there. Okay, so so don't you think we also need additional funds to shift from idea? That is that absolutely. Yeah, that is Professor Shushmita Das. As you said, it is correct. 100%. There need funds, right? Because there is change that is happening. That is why I said the complete cooperation of the entire system is needed. We need funds because we had been teaching that lecture method for such a long time. What are the new active learning strategies? How can I even employ it unless I learn it, unless I'm provided that additional training? How do I know as an instructor? Because all the while I was teaching, right? So yes, it costs money. So you may have to invite your experts. So the university needs to certainly provide additional funds. How can we make the new gen students being tech savvy, adhere or adapt to the outcome-based education curriculum? Now, this is Dr. Shanta. Thank you for that question, ma'am. So this is, it is much more easier to bring them on board to outcome-based education than the older generation people. The reason being, technology is very important. Problem solving is very important. Communication skills are very important. So it is easy to bring them on board than the other people, than the others. Again, having that exit outcome is very crucial. They know exactly what is expected of them. And they also know why that exit outcome is so important, because that is exactly what they are going to face once they move out of once they move out into the society looking for job, working in different firms. So I think it is much more easier to bring in new gen students on board for OBE than the older people, because it is easy for them to relate and understand. How do you balance completion of syllabus, ensuring OBE, where the instances of facing challenges? This is a fantastic question. The issue here is we always had a huge list of topics to cover. So what we were trying to do is covering that syllabus, just teaching that syllabus. Whether the students learn or not was not our responsibility. But in outcomes-based education, it is not the list of topics that we are teaching. In outcomes-based education, we are preparing them to be ready. So what is needed for them to be successful as a financial planner, as a mathematician, or as a demographer, as a sociologist, if you are preparing economists, what they have to, as a statistician, what they have to do out there, and are you preparing it? So once that shift happens in discussion with the industry, your senior leaders, the students, the employers, and so on, you know exactly what to teach, and it becomes easy. So with an existing syllabus, moving to outcome-based education with a huge set of topics to cover, it may be a challenge. That is why I mentioned about deconstruction of your courses, deconstruction of your program, or just break up the whole thing and start all over. Is that a possibility? Again, that is the discussion that you have to have in your institution. Manoj sir said, your experience and deliberations over OBE will be definitely helpful. Would you please guide regarding the effective implementation of OBE in traditional programs, BA, BCom, BSc, due to uncertainty of unemployment, we face severe attendance issue of the students. Again, this is not the issue that you face all over the world. It is there. Lack of attendance is not in developing countries. Lack of attendance is also in developed countries. Like the reason for lack of attendance in developing countries may be slightly different for the reasons that happens in developed countries. What I am facing is we do lack, our students are also missing classes. They are missing classes because they are working and making money. So how do we improve attendance? So we improve attendance if class participation, you cannot give marks for class participation. But sometime in one of our courses, we do pop quiz. Pop quiz means they just come. They don't know when the quiz is going to happen. Right? It may be 3 questions or 1 question on the topic that was covered earlier last week. So they don't know when it is going to happen. They come there. They have to be present in their class to do that quiz. If they are not there, automatic 0. So you set the expectations ahead. Attend the class regularly because there will be pop quiz. Attend the class regularly because there will be group work. Attend the class regularly because there is mark assigned to group work, the presentation in the classroom. So in traditional courses like BA, BCom, and BSc, again, what are you preparing your students in through? Let's say you are teaching BSc physics. If that is your program. So what are you preparing your students to do? We are not just teaching a set of courses. In outcomes-based education, the mindset is what are we doing to prepare our students to be successful in out there? With the BSc physics, what sort of jobs are they going to get? That is the first question you got to ask. And who are the people who are going to hire them? What sort of jobs are there? And what are they actually going to do there with BSc physics or BCom or BA in history. And based on that, the curriculum, the assessment, the expectations are changed. Again, this is not an overnight change. You can't just flip the switch and then suddenly outcome-based education happens. No, it doesn't happen that way. It's a long process. So going back to your employers, going back to the community where your students are employed, what is expected of them, and making those changes in your curriculum is what we can, that is how we can prepare students. Now, if the traditional courses is not, preparing them to be successful, what other programs can you formulate? What other programs can you initiate in your university? Those are the discussion that you have to have with your senior leaders. A large classroom are mix of diverse students. How do we engage all students and make them to participate? That's a fantastic question. Yes, diverse students are there. The challenges, it is the same challenges that you face is real in my case too. When you're large classrooms, diverse students, some like presentation, some don't like presentation, some like group work, some people don't like group work. But setting that expectation ahead, and this is what is expected, and so on. So what we do is on the first day of class, at the beginning of the semester, we set the expectations very clear. Okay, this is what is going to happen. This is how you will be assessed. These are the dates of your exams. These are the dates for your quizzes. And if I'm giving pop quiz, you are to be here, and then you will be tested on a topic that was taught the day before or two classes before. So setting that expectations ahead, that is only way we can engage them. A culture change needs to happen with us. A culture change needs to happen to our students. The entire institution also, the change needs to happen. I am a literary teacher. I'm experienced shortage of time while dividing into groups and letting the students involved in different. This is my experience. What is your view on this? And should we increase the time of individual time slot? Again, very, very, very good question. Shortage of time, just not for literature, right? Every program, every course, because we have a huge list of topics to cover. It is, but you know what? What new techniques can you? Again, that is some sort of research that you have to use yourself, right? So this is what I wanted to teach kids poem on this particular day. So how long is the poem? What is expected of them? Again, once you teach that poem, what do you expect them to do from that? So can you create activities in relation to it? So, and how can you find opportunities to save time? Looking back to your daily classroom activities, are there certain things that you can not do it? If you're taking attendance and attendance is taking 10 minutes, can you do something else to take attendance? Or if you are giving 15 minutes for discussion, what happens if you change the time to 10 minutes for discussion? In your group work, if you are, small group is not working, can you increase it to 4 people? And can you change the activities regularly? Those are some of the, again, everything depends on the classroom dynamics and the challenges that you face, right? So finding innovative ways that there is no right and wrong answer, right? I have to admit that. And there is no one who is able to give you a concrete answer to these questions, because these are reality. As practitioners or as teachers, these are every classroom is different. Your classroom challenges are different from my classroom challenges. So being innovative, spending more time, that is why I said workload may increase, because we need to spend some initial time preparing ourselves. What is the future of humanities programs in outcome-based education? You know what? That is a very, very good question, Hassan. I really don't have a concrete answer for that. Future of humanities programs. So one thing we have to understand is there is a role for humanities program, because many a times we are focusing very narrowly on the topics of the specialities, and we don't provide the breadth. So I really don't have an answer to your question. That's a very good question. I don't have an answer for the future of humanities program in OBE system. I really don't have an answer, sorry. Experiences. Slow learners. Again, I saw, Anulin, I saw your question on sharing how can a biology facilitator engage slow learners and assess them based on OBE when it's time bound. Again, it's a good question. There is no right or wrong answer for this. What is, can we provide remedial classes to bring them up? If there's providing remedial classes, then it involves more time for you. Again, can you have sessions outside your class? For example, for us instructors, we are supposed to have office hours where students can come and have a question and ask us questions and so on. So, can you identify a group of slow learners and see what they are lacking? Can you provide them additional time for them? See, one of the advantages with OBE is there is flexibility, right? There is flexibility. So can you provide flexibility to them? And what other extra resources can you provide them to bring them up? Those are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself. I mentioned about strategies and so on. Okay, it is 9 o'clock. I don't want to keep you much longer than this. So thank you for once again for your great participation, and thank you for your attendance. It was great being with you this evening. And again, reach out to IPSR if you need any help from. Okay, bye everyone.
Okay, thank you, Thomas sir. Thank you for a wonderful session. And tomorrow is Sunday. We won't be having any session tomorrow. And our next session will be day after tomorrow, Monday, on the topic Underlying Threads of OBE, ChatGPT and AI Tools by Dr. Suresh Nambudiri. And the same timing, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you all and good night.